there's some amazing kid somewhere right now that's 12 years old that you've never heard of making sicker beats than anybody in this chat. And it's really just about how they're going to get in the door. Being an engineer that's good will exponentially increase your opportunities. Me being there as the engineer, when it came time to create the record, I just started, I hopped on the beat too, you know, but I was in the room because I was engineering that session and recording the vocals.
Let's be honest, you're not gonna find these videos anywhere else. Why? Because I make them. So it would really help me out if you subscribe. If you've already subscribed, what also really helps is if you like the video and leave a comment. It's hard in the era of clickbait videos on YouTube and negativity in the producer community, and I appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
Talking about the Mount Westmore project, because that's, to me, that this is a big deal, especially, you know, from the perspective of a hip hop fan and a West Coast hip hop fan, and then talk about your involvement in that project.
So for the past like 5 years, I have helped Too Short run his studio facility here in LA. We got 5 rooms. He has a few different artists signed to him. I've been doing all of the mixing and mastering for his projects and some production for him as well. And yeah, man, you know, the OGs, they get booked on these like West Coast tour shows all the time by different promoters. And sometime in 2019, I think they all were kind of like, bro, why don't we do this ourselves? You know, like this promoter is over here taking 30% of all our bag doing this. And like, he's booking the same show in all these different cities. It's just like the 4 of us with different other, like, you know, they'll have Cocaine and Corrupt and other West Coast legends as well. But for the most part, it was always like Snoop and Short on the show, or Snoop and 40, or 40 and Cube, you know what I mean? So they decided to just like join forces. And we started off doing a couple of songs. And then, yeah, I want to say like 6 months into working, they were all just like having fun. And they were like, man, fuck just doing an album. Like, let's just keep making songs. So I want to say we have probably like 60 or so, maybe 70 songs that they've done that we're choosing from to do these next albums. And yeah, man, it's been crazy to just like interface with the OGs and see their creative process and stuff. It's been cool. It's been very cool.
So what you were saying initially was that E40, Too Short, Ice Cube, and Snoop Dogg all have their own respective studios, and so a lot of that that group work was done separately.
95%. Every song was made separately. It usually would be one of the artists in the group would have an idea and they'd put like a verse or a hook, and then they'd send it. They have like a group chat and they'll send it to the group chat. And then like, if everyone likes it, they'll do their parts. And so, yeah, it just kind of was a ton of file transferring back and forth, you know. Snoop's here in LA. So end of 2020, as we started to like figure out what songs were on the track list, me and Short and the OG Ant Banks, one of Short's original producers, we went over to Snoop's studio to mix, to start mixing the project. So that was probably the first time, I want to say, they were in the lab together. 40's been in the Bay the whole time. He took the pandemic real serious, locked in. His son's been recording him. My guy Miggy is one of his normal engineers, and yeah, he said he hasn't even seen 40 in person since the pandemic started. So 40 would record his vocals, send them to Miggy to clean up, then Miggy would send them to me. And then yeah, Cube has his in-house guy too. So yeah, it was just everyone was in their own studio, coming up with ideas, sending them in, and then we would, you know, arrange them. Me and Short were pretty much in charge of arranging everything. I was getting all the files from everyone and putting the verses in, figuring out who needed to go in what order and all that. And yeah, man, it was pretty cool, because it was, yeah, normally you make records or projects like that in the lab in person, and being able to see how people would react. Like a couple of times some of the guys would want to redo their verses after they heard how someone else came on the song, and they'd be like, oh shit, yeah, now you gassed me, I need to I need to rewrite my verse.
Well, I think these days that's pretty common. Just the remote work and the remote collaboration, and then you throw the pandemic in the mix. I think even prior to that, a lot of people were recording in their respective either home studios or smaller studios. But let me ask you this, because I know traditionally, especially, you know, around the time when the DAW home recording revolution was kind of peaking. A lot of engineers, especially, and I'm sorry, I go a little hard on engineers sometimes because they're a little.
It's a loose term.
They're a little fickle, you know.
Yeah, it's a very loose term these days.
I don't even mean that. I just mean that my experience with engineers is that they're pretty set in their ways, and so a lot of them. Okay, so you're not offended. Cool,
No,
but
I'm not.
what I heard initially from a lot of them was there are engineers that would refuse to do remote sessions and you know, mix vocals from this studio over here, that studio over there. And I see that kind of the new way of doing things involves a lot of remote work. Was that a challenge? Like Snoop's vocals were recorded at a totally separate studio. This environment might be different.
I'm not going to throw the particular artist in the group under the bus, but I will just say there were a number of songs where one of the guys was on set recording his vocals, and they're noticeably shittier than everyone else's vocals. So like,
okay, well, why? Let's talk about that. So let's create some solutions for people.
So, man, I can't throw them under the bus. All four of the guys have a home studio that is a professional level studio. They've built them out. They're all, you know, these are all legends. They have the money to do that. So when they're at home working in their home studio, you know, Snoop has a big, huge facility. Their vocals are great. A couple of guys during the process of working on songs recorded their vocals in like a trailer, like literally like on set, the trailer, or like in an office, and you can just hear the room. It's like there was no blankets put up. There was nothing to dampen the room. It was somebody told them, yeah, no, you can just rap into this. He probably had like the Chaotica eyeball on it, and they were like, yeah, no, that's gonna help you out totally. And it's like, by the way, side note, I love you, Chaotica. Stop telling people that that's all you need to record vocals in a room. It destroys your vocals. Like the eyeball is one of the worst things ever created. It fits like 4 microphones. So like that's a falsehood. But let's back on track.
It fits my microphone, so I'm cool.
If but it fits your microphone, great.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think they can just put the Chaotica eyeball and be in a room full of people talking, or like with, you know, your sliding glass door open on your balcony, and that it's going to solve everything. And it's like, no, it doesn't do that. Like your mic is still directional. Everything that's behind you is getting in that microphone still. So like, yeah,
you'll hear birds and stuff, and sometimes it works. Sometimes you have nature sounds in your verses.
It works great in very particular situations. But sometimes I think people think it's just like a one-stop shop. Throw this on, and I have noise cancellation. And
sure. Well, okay, but let's talk about that then. So let's say somebody's in one of these situations where they're in a room that's not acoustically treated, or a room that just has terrible acoustics. What can they do to make sure that they don't piss their engineer off when they send those vocals back?
The crazy.
And no, it's not rest in peace, eyeball. Come on, guys.
No. It's not RIP eyeball. I don't want to. I love the Chaotica guys. They fit a very specific purpose that is very good, and when you need it, it is the perfect thing for it. But I think honestly, man, the silliest shit is what helps you get good vocals. It sounds stupid, but if you're in a bad room, put the microphone in a blanket and do this if you can. I know if it's the summertime, not a thing you're gonna do, but like really, getting some sort of fabric or material that's between you and whatever wall or reflective surface. Great job. Do that. I remember when I was in engineering school, I took these like felt blankets that I had, almost like comforter with blankets, and nailed them to my ceiling in like a fucking halo so that people would like step into this booth of a blanket. And it works great. You know, ultimately it's about getting some sort of sound absorbing material in between you and whatever's reflecting into your room. You know what I mean? However you can do that. People do crazy things, even in big studios. You know, you'll see the gobos with packing blankets on top of them because they're in a big live room. You know, it's just all about isolating your signal, and wherever you're at, the best, however you can do that the best, you know?
Yeah, those heavy ass fire blankets that you can put an elephant out if it steps in gasoline or something. Yeah,
Literally. No, I mean, but yeah, like your comforter, towels, anything like that is great if you're just like sitting in a room with nothing if you're in a room with wooden furniture and you have no carpets and you know, nothing on the walls, like you're in an echo chamber. So anything that you can get to dampen those will greatly help you, regardless of how ridiculous it looks on camera.
So you make beats and engineer. Which one came first for you?
I started making beats, and then
Okay.
my roommate was kind of like, you know, you can go to school for that. And I was like, what? That's bullshit. And there was a school in the Bay Area called Expression at the time. SAE bought it a few years ago. And yeah, they have a engineering program. They had a sound engineering program, and they also do animation and visual stuff. But yeah, at the time, the sound engineering program rivaled Full Sail. If not, I would, you know, I'm biased, but I think it was better than Full Sail at the time. We had some really great program directors. Most of the people who wrote our curriculum were, you know, working engineers in the industry. And I fell in love with engineering. You know, I just enjoy working on music in general, whether it's making it or engineering, you know, whether it's the creative or technical side, and learning about gear and the process of making records and how important engineers were. I really did. Like, I really fell in love with that shit and like went hard. I was top of my class. And that was kind of what set the tone for my whole career, was just, you know, going to that school and really being able to like dive into the curriculum. Yeah, definitely started off making beats though.
And I read that you made your first beat when you were 12.
Yeah, so my uncle is a film editor. He does, or sound editor for film. And he used to do like educational films, like, you know, in fourth grade they wheel the TV into your classroom and like show you a video. So he used to make those at his house, and he had this program, Sony Acid Pro, and because he did the scoring for his videos, he had like tons of loops and shit. So like me and my cousin would literally just like make beats with pre-made loops that were synced to tempo. And that was kind of my first introduction to like making compositions other than like having a guitar and shit, you know?
Okay, there's a debate in the studio, or in the chat. Sorry, can you weigh in on the egg crate debate?
Egg crates do something. Where people fuck up a lot is they put them directly on the wall. You need to have a space between the egg crate and the wall to allow the sound to go in and get double the absorption. If you put it against the wall, it just goes and it bounces back, and then whatever gets stuck in this is there. But if you have two things and this is your wall, then it has to fucking go through the one. You get absorption, bounces off the wall, absorption again. So always put your sound absorption a little bit off of the wall so you can double up on your reflection sucking up. Pause.
Got it. And then so I also read that you initially remade beats in order to learn how to produce them.
Yep.
How did that help?
Well, I think what a lot of creative people who are musically inclined struggle with is the full composition. Especially like if you come from playing an instrument, drum programming probably isn't your specialty. So like for me, it helped a lot learning, you know, especially when like the triplet hats and the BMF style beats, the Lex Luger beats became more prevalent and more, you know, damn near had to have some sort of elements of that at a certain point in time to get your production anywhere. It helped me figure out how the producers did that by recreating stuff. You know, you have this, especially if you start out, like, I think one of the first beats I made that like I recreated to a point where I was like, oh shit, I can do this, was like Lollipop by Lil Wayne, which like not the most musically intense beat, but when I was able to fully like remake every single part of it down to from the effects and the drums, finding the drum sounds, finding how they made those patterns, it just, you know, you learn things doing that, you know what I mean? And I think that helped me a lot as far as definitely my drum programming.
Which DAW are you on?
Now I'm in a combo of Logic and FL, but I started in Logic. I've been on Logic since like Logic 7.
So you remade Lollipop with Logic 7.
Yes, with damn near Logic stock sounds, bro.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure because that's a Jim Johnson beat. I wasn't sure what he used. Wasn't he using like a Triton or a motif or something?
Yeah, I mean the drums sound like the motif drums. It sound like the motif whatever that they have like 2 hip hop drum kits in the motif, and it sounds like that. And I actually did have a motif at the time, but
I still got mine.
Yeah, I still have mine too. I gotta bust it back out. I seen my bro using one of the new motifs the other day in the studio, and I was like, man, this shit still sounds so great. But yeah, no, I just kind of like scrolled through sounds, figured them out. Logic has a bunch of really dope stock sounds. Actually, like it takes a long time to get them to where they need to be, but it definitely has a lot of great sounds.
So here's something interesting. So recently, and this is just one example, but you produced this crazy track with Too Short, Ice Cube, Neo, Raven Justice, and DJ Nina 9. Shout out to DJ Nina 9, by the way.
Yes. Shout out DJ Nina 9. The
she's
homegirl.
Dope.
She's amazing.
And she knows everybody. She's a networking monster. And you produced it and you mixed and mastered it. So basically you're a one-stop shop with that track. Should producers learn to be engineers to increase their opportunities?
Yes, 100%. 100%, bro. A lot of the people I know in LA specifically engineering gets them in the door. It's good engineers are hard to find, man. Unfortunately, beat makers are a dime a dozen now. Like there's some amazing kid somewhere right now that's 12 years old that you've never heard of making sicker beats than anybody in this chat. And it's really just about how they're going to get in the door. You know what I'm saying? Being an engineer that's good will exponentially increase your opportunities. Even to the point where it's just like building your network. When people can rely on you to do things, they're more willing to give you more opportunities. And so for me, being a reliable engineer who people can call on and know that I'm gonna get the job done puts me in more rooms than someone who might not be able to do that, who's also a dope producer. You know what I'm saying? Perfect example. The song I just produced with Danny Boy, Biz, and Blake for Elam. She's on Def Jam. She's French Montana's artist.
Danny Boy?
Danny Boy Styles, yeah. He is...
Okay, not Danny Boy, the singer.
No, my bad. Okay. Danny Boy Styles, The Weeknd's
producer. I didn't know. You're on the West Coast. I don't know.
Yeah, no. He does a lot of The Weeknd stuff. He's executive producing Elam album. I was called to be the engineer for that session. And Biz and Blake are some of my really good friends. I cook up with both of them. I like a lot. And me being there as the engineer, when it came time to create the record, I hopped on the beat too, but I was in the room because I was engineering that session and recording the vocals. And it just turns out, it was a squad of us who already make beats together who were producing for her. So it worked out that way.
So tell me about your early engineering work, because you linked with a lot of R&B icons like Tank, Kelly Rowland, and Jamie Foxx. And I believe you lived with Jamie Foxx for a period of time?
No. I was just there every day for like 3-4 months. So when I went to Expressions, my bro, Eric Denniston, graduated, I want to say like 9 months or a year before I did, and immediately moved down to LA. He started as an assistant at the Village Recorder, which is one of the bigger, well-known studios in Santa Monica in LA. It's where Fleetwood Mac did most of their stuff. And through that, he got a bunch of gigs. He met another producer who was Ludacris's old engineer. He was working for Atlantic at the time as Tank's in-house guy. Had my friend come in to help him. Tank had 2 rooms in North Hollywood. And my bro was basically like, yo, man, like, come down here. Like, you need to be down in LA. I got this gig for you, you know, like I need help engineering for this camp, like come down. And so I moved down to LA and yeah, linked up. We were doing Tank's in-house stuff. And then probably like 6-7 months into doing that, this writer / vocal producer named Lonnie Barrio hit me up randomly and was just like, hey man, can you come do a session with Kelly Rowland? And I was like, of course. Like, what? Yes. And so I showed up for a session with her and they liked my work. And then, yeah, I was with her for another 4 months at Chalice. Just they were working on records. I think she was trying to put together an album because she was this was at the time, I think it was The Voice or the X Factor. I don't remember which show, but she was a judge and that's why she was in LA. And yeah, I was her engineer until the show got canceled and she left LA. So and then yeah, I think that following summer was when we helped Jimmy Foxx finish up his album. And that was all kind of, yeah, through the same avenues. Tank and Jamie are really close. And so it was the same guy, Lonnie, called me for the Jamie sessions as well. So yeah, it was really, you know, just linking with my friend from school who was in that position. And yeah, they were trying to do something else. So they kind of like had me come down to LA to like take over so they could go start a different studio.
So let me reverse the question that I asked earlier. Earlier I asked, should producers become engineers? Should engineers become producers? Because engineering is kind of a tough income stream to make sustainable, right? Because once you're done engineering the record, that's it. Whereas if you have some kind of underlying composition credit or ownership, rather, you have equity in the song. So how do engineers get paid? How do they start to navigate that world so they're not just living, you know, studio fee to studio fee?
I think there's definitely more and more we're championing each other to create a community. The biggest downfall for engineers in general, and the reason why we are still treated the way we are, is because like there's no communal sense of banding together to create a union. Everyone else in the entertainment industry has a union. Once you get to a certain point, you become a member of the union, and then you don't have to worry about getting paid or negotiating rates. They can't pay you less than X amount of dollars, and they can't pay you after you're not waiting for invoices for that long. You know, I have friends who are audio engineers that do voiceover work for TV, and they're part of the filmmakers union. And yeah, he's not worrying about studio fee to studio fee. So I think the biggest thing that we encounter is the fame aspect. And I say that, what I mean by that is every engineer in LA today could get on a call and agree that we won't take less than $35 an hour. And if a studio takes more than a month to pay us, we'll never work with them again. And what would happen? We'd be replaced by every single other kid all over the world that wants to work on these records that we're working on. They don't care this industry is built off of the unpaid internship, the get shit on till you get an opportunity motto. And, you know, that has created this culture where it's next man up. If every engineer in LA decided we're not doing this because you won't pay us properly, you don't treat us properly, we'd get replaced immediately, and then we would just be broken out of a job, you know? So there's this fine balance of having to take certain gigs to keep shit going and pushing your line for what you want as an engineer. And I think back to the original question of should engineers become producers? Yes, absolutely. You know, I think people like to take that phrase, a jack of all trades is or would you rather be a master of one or a jack of all trades? But I forget, man, I'm blanking right now.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yes, but the rest of that phrase is, but a jack of all trade is better than a master of none. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's better than a master of one, I mean. You know what I mean? So it's like, you can choose to just excel at one thing, But when you're an engineer who can also vocal produce and can also help with arrangements and can also tell them how to do harmonies, you're going to get more jobs than the guy who is the greatest engineer and is going to have you sounding pristine every single time, because you'll eventually get there in the mix process. If you're a tracking engineer, though, that can vocal produce and people trust you to help them get their best quality performance, you're going to get the gig every time, you know, versus the guy who just knows how to work Pro Tools really well, you know?
Yeah. That conversation about the unions and rates and all that, and us being replaced, that apply. And I say us, not as an engineer, but as a producer, because that applies to us too. And you know what I didn't know? It wasn't until I worked on this record for the last Ludacris album, and I had my friend play guitar on it. And he suddenly, as a result of just playing guitar on that record, was in the session player union, or I forget what it's called. I don't know. I think it's a union specifically for session players.
Yeah, it's the musicians union.
Something, but I'm like, wait a minute. Why don't we have that? This is crazy. And he got money. He got a totally separate piece of money from the label advance.
No, yeah, for sure. No, yeah. My bro trumpet dude. He's a session musician, trumpet player. He has a minimum rate. If he's on your song and it's released on a major label, you can't put his horns on your album for less than like $5,000 or some shit. Like it's the union, you know, it's unionized. So it goes back to, like you said, producer technology is in the hands of kids who, I can't expect some 13-year-old kid who has no bills to understand he's taking money out of your and mine pocket by taking $1,000 for a major label beat. You know, or a sample maker is taking $50 and pub, you know what I mean? Like I can't expect you to understand that. And by all means, don't stop. If you're a 12-year-old watching this right now, please keep fucking making beats. But it's the industry that we're in, bro. That's why all these labels are going after these sample producers and signing these young kids who are making these dope samples, who are the keys to these compositions. And it's not because they're the dopest. They are super dope, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that they can get them for a great rate for their label, and they don't have to pay them fucking $20,000 a beat, you know? And that's just the reality. You look like you got a ghost in the house. Oh, you're muted.
My bad. I have this, I have an issue with a woodpecker. I don't want to get into it, but I sometimes think that it's the woodpecker pecking on my siding, and I've had to go out there like a fool on a ladder a couple times over the summer.
Things they don't tell you about having a house.
They didn't tell me any of this stuff, bro. I don't even want to get into it. But yeah, the woodpecker, you know, you think it's all good because you got beautiful wood siding, and then that damn bird shows up. And he's not even looking for food. Apparently, it's part of the mating ritual. So he's just basically showing off.
To get some puss. Yeah.
Showing off to women, woodpeckers. Just like, look how dope I am at fucking up this guy's house. Sleep with me. All right. Anyway, so I think the reason that you and I do know each other is through Mistah Fab.
Agreed. Yep.
What's your relationship with him?
Man, so when I was going to school, Expression has a really good studio facility. We got to learn on actual consoles, professionally built out rooms. And yeah, the Bay is low-key short on really nice studios. And at the time, I don't even really know what he does. Now he works with Nick Cannon as one of the managers and guys who helps run Nick Cannon's label. But at the time, he's an OG from the Bay who just knew all of the Bay Area artists, and he wanted to do a DVD and an album basically about Bay Area artists. And he approached my roommate and I about using the studios at Expression to film the interviews and to record some of the songs. And of course, you know, we were young kids from the Bay, and he's like talking about bringing all of these big Bay Area artists that we love in. And we were like, yeah, of course, like, let's do it. And so to make a long story short, we piled all of our like student we had like 12 hours a month as students into together into studio time and rented these studios. And yeah, Fab was one of the big artists that came through. And I want to say like 8 months after those sessions, we did like 3 sessions for this DVD. I saw Fab on Twitter be like, I'm in the Bay. Who got studio? Who got lab or something? And I was at, you know, my last 9 months of the program, we were allowed to rent the studios out to like study. And basically our program directors were like, yo, if you see open studio time and you don't have any more hours, just like email me and I'll put you in. And I was like, fucking bet. So my last 6 months, I was in the studio 4 or 5 days a week from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. because this one room was always open then. And I was just in there making beats, recording my homies, whatever it was, getting my Pro Tools chops up. And yeah, it was during one of those sessions I saw that and I tweeted Fab and was just like, I got lab, pull up. And he DM'd me and was just like, what's up? Where you at? And I was like, bro, I met you, blah, 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 at Expressions. I'm Expressions, pull up. And he pulled up and liked my engineering, and the rest is history, man. Me and Fab were locked in for the probably like 5 straight months while I was still in school in those sessions doing shit. At that time, I recorded vocals for him on like a T-Pain record and hella shit. And I was just so juiced to be working with this artist that I really looked up to and loved their music and at a professional level while I was still in school. So when I graduated, I basically hit Fab and was like, yo, man, like, I don't have access to the school the same way I did, but we can do this at my house. And I had some money I saved up from graduation. I bought a Loughton audio microphone. And man, I fucking basically started a studio in my bedroom with Fab and rocked with him for 4 or 5 years straight. We had a house that had like 2 extra bedrooms. He paid for one of the extra bedrooms to put my studio in. And yeah, man, I just was going in on Logic with Fab every day. It was 5, 6 songs a day. Like, he's a machine. And yeah, I think we met. We met because he was working. We were doing these hip hop tapes a lot, and you were sending in shit. Not even just the hip hop tapes. You were just sending in fire, and we just ended up being on a few different projects together, I think. Right?
Yeah. Okay. So your relationships with artists like Fab and Too Short have led to a lot of opportunities. What are some networking tips you can give producers?
Man, bro, show up, just like go, like, and don't like. It's weird, bro. All this shit sounds so corny, you know. But it's real. Like, at the end of the day, the things that helped me the most were having people that championed for me, that knew, you know, being talented and showing your community what you do. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of people, especially when they first start out, are afraid to like show their homies or their friends like what they're doing because they're like worried about being judged and shit. And it's like, I get it, but ultimately, the more people that know you do something that fuck with you they'll spread your name around. You know, I can't say enough about having just like, not even friendships, but just like having a good reputation in your community and going to events and connecting with people who run the events and who help trendset. You know, I somehow just off a Twitter, chopping it up on Twitter, became cool with one of the major blog writers in the Bay at the time. And it was easier for me to get songs I produced placed on there just through me knowing, bro, being able to DM him and be like, hey man, I just did this. Like, can you put me on the front page? And him being like, oh yeah, it's good. I got you. So yeah, it's just like, you got to go out there. You got to get out of the studio, and the cooler the person you are, the better it will be. And I know that's like very general, but like, I hate people. Like, I hate people. I don't like people. But when I'm in public with people, I do my best to be cool and to not be an asshole and to be mindful of others. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's like, we're all here together, and it's easy to get caught up like just like talking about what you're doing and not pay attention to other people. So the more you listen when you go out and talk to people and really like actually network, because people nowadays can tell when you have an ulterior motive. You know, when you go to a party and the only person you're trying to talk to is a guy who threw the party and you're not there mingling, like they're going to see right through that, you know? But when you go somewhere and you go to an event and you're there for the event and then you spend the time seeing the people there and then meeting the person who runs it and just like being a genuine person, it goes a lot further than trying to pull, like just trying to like poach relationships, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. There was a good question that came in. Let me find it quickly. Okay. Fantastic wants to know what are your tips? So producer wants to learn how. Okay. Well, there we go. I don't have to read it.
Nah, yeah. So as far as tips for learning engineering, man, YouTube videos are great, but like I would say, actually, no, you know what? Let me go back. If you're an engineer that doesn't go to school, the best thing you can do is subscribe to Mix with the Masters. Like, let me tell you that right now, because those tutorials that they have there are real gems. You know what I'm saying? YouTube, anything you need to figure out. But ultimately, the cool thing about engineering and music is there's no right way. The only right way is the final product. There's hundreds of ways to get there. It's whatever way you're most comfortable with and you're most fluent in. Do that. Because ultimately, like, all of this technology was created out of necessity. Every single plugin you use, every piece of gear you have was created by an engineer who didn't have it and needed to do it. And some other engineer could have told him how to do it a different way. And they were like, no, I'm going to make this piece of gear. You know? So ultimately, like, everything you do is of your own creation. If you want to be in Ableton engineering shit with 700 plugins on one channel strip and it gets you the sound you need, I'm not going to tell you not to do that. You know? Like,
actually, that changed my life when I think it was a Leslie Breathwaite video or something, and he put 3 or 4 compressors on Lil Uzi's voice or I don't know. It was a vocal change where I'm like, there's no way any of the more traditional engineers I know would ever stand by this. I'm gonna try it. And I like it now. Yeah.
And then you tried it and now it worked great, right? No, yeah, exactly, bro. It's like, that's what's so cool about this shit, bro. Every day they're coming out with new plugins that do things that you didn't even know you needed done. You know, like Soothe. I would have never thought of a plugin like Soothe 5 years ago. It sounds so counterintuitive to my knowledge of audio. You know what I'm saying? But it sounds great. I would have never created that plugin. I would have never even wanted that plugin. You know what I'm saying? But it, you know, so I think it's just like trying shit and learning as you go. Mixed with the Masters is a great place for tips for a lot of the trickier things. But ultimately, bro, it's just like doing research, man. Researching what an EQ is and how it works. Compressor, phasers, you know, like not only are there YouTube tutorials, but there's tons of literature about that will help you understand what you're using. And the more you understand your tool, like I'll say this, the only difference I have from going to school versus other engineers that are my peers that didn't is maybe like a more intimate working knowledge of like the actual like gear itself, if that makes sense. Like circuitry and shit and like signal flows of consoles and different pieces of gear. Like I know that was stuff that was like drilled into us in school, but ultimately like they're able to use the gear the same way I am. They have ears just like me. I might know more about like if it comes to troubleshooting or fixing a piece of gear or, you know what I mean, diagnosing shit like that, maybe. But other than that, like that's really the only thing I would say I have a step up in that I got from school. Everything else is literally just like you learn as you go. You listen to things that you like and you try your best to emulate them.
Here's a question that I want to expand a little bit on. Would you say there's at least a base set of plugins you definitely need for mixing? And then I would also extend that for to physical gear. No, like what, okay. You know, what is there a bare minimum if someone has a limited budget and they just have to get certain pieces of gear because they want to start engineering, what would that
If
be?
you have a limited software budget, Waves, what I think Mercury bundle, I don't know, Waves most comprehensive bundle that has like their Renaissance package in it and stuff is a great starting point. I don't know if it's still this cheap, but I know when the pandemic first hit, it was down to like $399, $400 for almost 1,000, like 700 plugins or something. And so like that is a really great basis to start off. Obviously, I feel like every DAW comes with EQs and their own set of plugins, and they all, I mean, this is the thing. Every DAW that was ever made that comes with plugins, someone who made that used only the stock plugins to create a piece of work that they felt sounded equivalent to mixed work, if that makes sense. So like any plugin, any DAW you have has all the tools you need. Some work better than others and make it easier. So again, bare bones, if you're trying to mix stuff, get the Waves Mercury. Fab Filter has a lot of great stuff as well. My go-tos though are Waves, Fab Filter, and then shit, I forgot, Plugin Alliance is killing it. $25 a month, all their shit, they're going crazy. Plugin Alliance has some great stuff. If you can't afford $25 a month, you probably need to focus on making money, not in music, because music is not a great way to make money. And if $25 a month is like really breaking your bank, then like you got to reassess a lot of shit, because this is not the way you make money. This is the way you have fun in life. I say that now, like really understand that, like making music is not the best way to make money.
Okay, so let me pick up on that. How long have you been making a living as a musician?
Fuck. By myself, like fully supporting myself, it's been probably 9 years. I was homeless living out of my studio for 2 of those. So like, yeah, bro, you gotta love this shit. It's not like if you're trying to pick a career that's just gonna make you rich and afford you the ability to take vacations, like this is not that. Like you can definitely make great money. You're not gonna have any time to do anything else. And that's why it's really important that like you really love music and you really love making this and you really love this process, because there's so much bullshit that goes with it. It's very difficult. And yeah, man, like if you don't think about quitting at least a few times throughout the journey, like you're not invested enough, I don't think. Because I think we've all been there, man. It goes in ebbs and flows. And I think the sign that you're doing well and you're on the right path is every time you hit those lulls, it gets less and less deep, if that makes sense.
I go through that every week.
Bro, no.
Maybe not every week, but like maybe every month, every other month, where I'm just like, I'll have 2 consecutive days. Just like, I gotta go.
Do I even want to do this anymore?
Yeah.
Nah, for sure. And it is. It's that. It's real. It's a reality of it. But I mean, yeah, like I've been supporting myself, for about a little more than 9 years. You know, I got a fiance and I'm comfortable, so to speak. But you know, a lot of that.
So she puts up with your shit.
Yeah. She knew what it was from the beginning. We've known each other since I started going to school.
She must have a good job, a stable job.
Yeah, she works for a PR agency. She's good. We're good. Yeah, she's the more stable one for sure. But yeah, bro, it's like it's definitely one of those things where you got to save your money. You know, you got to be smart, reinvesting your money into things that you don't have to, like passive income streams is really important if you're going to be a successful musician, because yeah, bro, there will be years where you don't get major label placements. You know, like I got my first major label placement was in 2015, and then it wasn't until 2018 that I got another one, you know, and I was surviving.
Okay, and I want to talk about all this. What was your first major label placement in 2015?
My first major label placement was this song I did with the homie Ye Ali called Bounce That. for this R&B duo, Armand and Trey. That was the first like time Warner Brothers sent me a check. And I had to go through that whole invoicing process, signing big contracts, get a lawyer, all this, you know what I mean? And then, yeah, I didn't get another major label placement like that until Let Her Go with Black and Biz. And yeah, that was 2018.
Before we're talking about the Black placement, because I have a lot of questions about that. You said you've been doing this for a living for about 9 years straight. What was that life-changing moment or that decision or that habit that you formed that took you from having a regular job to actually being a career musician, producer, engineer?
Man, I'm not going to lie to you. I've never had a job. I used to trap out of my house when I was going to school. I was selling weed. And so I kind of just like, there reached a point in time where I needed to spend more time in the studio to get into the rooms that I wanted to be in versus focusing on like going up north to get some more trees. So it just kind of was like, I had to figure out what I wanted more, and I wanted to be a musician more, and I wanted to not.
This was before legalization in California? Okay.